The alarms on my bridge are screaming before I even sit down. My name is Velthara, fleet commander of the Chrysian Dominion, and I have just given the order to strike the human colony known as New Meridian. I expected smoke. I expected fire. I expected the usual sight of a weak, unprepared world folding under the weight of our ships. Instead, I am staring at a scanner screen that makes no sense to me. There is no chaos down there, no screaming crowds running in every direction, no burning buildings lighting up the dark side of the planet, just rows and rows of transport ships lifting off in perfect, silent order, like this was rehearsed 1,000 times before. My science officer, a thin and nervous Chrysian named Drag, taps the console beside me. "Commander, their evacuation pattern is too clean," he says. It is like they knew we were coming. I do not answer him right away. I have led fleets against a dozen small, disorganized worlds. I have seen real fear. I have seen leaders beg for mercy over open channels, offering anything to save their people. This is different. This is worse. This silence feels like it is hiding something enormous, something patient, something that has been waiting a very long time for a reason to wake up. Continue the operation, I say, even though my voice does not carry the confidence I want it to. A calm evacuation does not mean they can stop us. The Dominion has taken hundreds of colonies like this one, small, new, thinly defended settlements at the edge of known space, built by species too young or too weak to protect themselves properly. We call them soft ground, easy harvests. When our scanners first picked up the human colony of New Meridian, my superiors laughed. A settlement with no visible battle fleet, no orbital defense platforms, and technology that looked, on the surface, almost primitive compared to ours. It looked like the easiest target we had found in years. I remember the moment clearly. 3 days before the attack, sitting in the officers' hall aboard my ship, the Vantage Cry, while my second-in-command, an older Chrysian named Solon, reviewed the intelligence reports with a smug look on his face. "They call themselves humans," Solon said, sliding a datapad toward me. "One planet of origin, no formal alliance with any of the major powers we know. Their colonies are spread thin, poorly guarded, and completely unaware of what waits for them out here in the dark." "Any resistance reported from previous encounters?" I asked. "None worth mentioning," he said. "A few scouting ships disappeared near their border decades ago, but that has been written off as navigational accidents, nothing more." I remember feeling a small flicker of unease even then, though I could not explain why. Perhaps it was simply because everything about this species seemed too quiet, too still, like a held breath before something happens. But ambition and greed are louder than caution, and my orders came from far above me. "Strike the colony. Take what resources we can. Report back before the humans even understand what has happened to them." Now, hovering above New Meridian with my fleet spread out in strike formation, that unease has returned, stronger than before. Drag speaks again, his voice tighter this time. "Commander, I am picking up a strange transmission from the surface. It repeats every few seconds on an open frequency." "Play it," I order. The bridge speakers crackle, and a calm, almost mechanical human voice fills the room. The words are short, clipped, deliberate. "Protocol worm, authenticate burned. That is all. No pleading, no warning shots fired back at us, no desperate call for help sent out into the void. Just those 4 strange words, repeated again and again like a heartbeat. Translate it fully," I tell Drag. "I already have, Commander," he replies, his antennae twitching with unease. "That is the full translation. It does not match any known military code we have on file for this species. It could be a technical malfunction, or it could be nothing at all, some kind of automated relay error. I want to believe that. I want to believe this is simply broken equipment, glitching under the stress of our attack, sending out meaningless noise into space. But some old instinct inside me, the same instinct that has kept me alive through 100 battles across a dozen star systems, tells me this is not noise. This is a message, and somewhere out there, someone or something is listening for it, waiting for the exact moment to answer. I order my strike teams to descend and begin securing the colony's remaining structures and supplies, standard procedure for a harvest operation like this one. Solon stands beside me on the bridge, watching the same strange evacuation pattern with narrowed eyes. "This does not sit right with me," he mutters, almost to himself. "Say what you mean," I tell him. "A species this calm during an attack has either given up completely," he says slowly, "or they have somewhere else to put their fear, somewhere they trust more than their own fighting ships." I think about his words, long after he has gone quiet again. Down on the surface, our landing teams report back that the colony is nearly empty. Homes, storage facilities, even the central command building, all abandoned, all left in a state of quiet, practiced order. No signs of panic, no signs of struggle. It is as if the humans simply packed up their entire lives and walked away without a single wasted movement. One of my ground team leaders, a soldier named Kret, sends a report that stays with me the rest of that day. "Commander, we found something odd in the central building. A single data terminal, still powered on, displaying the same 4 words from that transmission. Protocol worm, authenticate, burned. There is also a countdown timer running beneath it. It reached 0 moments before we arrived." "What happened when it reached 0, I ask. "Nothing that we could see, Commander," Kret answers. "No explosion. No weapon fired. The screen simply went dark afterward." Nothing that we could see. Those words echo through my mind for the rest of the operation. In my long career serving the Dominion, I have learned that the quietest moments before a battle are often the most dangerous ones. Loud, chaotic enemies are predictable. They panic, they scatter, they make mistakes we can exploit. But an enemy who evacuates in total silence, who leaves behind strange countdowns and codes we cannot translate, is an enemy who is not afraid of us at all. By the time the sun sets on New Meridian's now empty colony, my fleet has claimed the planet with almost no resistance. On paper, this looks like a clean and easy victory, exactly the kind of operation my superiors back home will celebrate. But standing on the bridge of the Vantage Cry, watching the dark, empty world below us, I do not feel like a conqueror. I feel like someone standing at the edge of a much larger story, one that started long before I arrived and is only just beginning to stir back to life. Drake approaches me one last time before I retire for the night cycle, his expression unusually serious for someone normally so calm. "Commander, I ran a deeper scan of that transmission source," he says. "The signal did not originate from anywhere on the planet's surface." "Then where did it come from?" I ask. He hesitates before answering, choosing his next words carefully. "It came from somewhere much farther out, Commander. Somewhere in the dark, past the edge of this system. And whatever received that message, it sent back a single confirmation signal in return." I stand there in silence for a long moment, staring out at the stars beyond the viewport, feeling the weight of his words settle over me like a shadow. We came here expecting an easy harvest, a quiet colony ripe for the taking. Instead, we have woken something up. I do not know yet what that something is, but deep down, in a place instinct lives long before logic catches up, I already sense that this quiet, careful, unafraid species has just called for help from somewhere far more frightening than anything my fleet has ever faced before. That night, alone in my private quarters, I replay the recording of that strange human voice, over and over. Protocol worm, authenticate, burned. I do not understand the words yet, but I understand the feeling behind them. It is not the sound of a species giving up. It is the sound of a species making a promise to someone or something far away. And promises like that are rarely broken quietly. 3 days pass since we took New Meridian, and my superiors expect me to press forward, to hit the next human colony on our list, while their defenses are supposedly still weak and disorganized. But I have not given that order yet. Something about the silence we found on that first world has followed me every hour since, like a chill that refuses to leave the ship. I call a meeting in the strategy room with Solon, Drake, and my intelligence officer, a sharp and cautious Chrysian named Feyre. The 4 of us stand around the holographic table, watching a slow rotation of the human colony we just claimed, alongside scattered reports from our scouting drones, still monitoring the system. "Give me something solid," I tell Feyre. "Not rumors, not guesses. Facts." "The facts are strange enough on their own, Commander," she replies, pulling up a series of records on the table. We captured several human engineers during the operation, workers who stayed behind to secure equipment before their transport left. One of them, a woman named Clara, has been cooperative in a way I did not expect. Cooperative how? I ask. She keeps talking, Commander, freely. No threats needed. She does not ask for mercy. She does not beg to be released. She simply talks, almost as if she feels sorry for us. That detail alone sends a small, cold feeling through me. I order Clara brought to the strategy room under guard. She walks in calmly, hands secured in front of her, her expression unreadable in a way that unsettles me more than open defiance would have. She looks around the room, at our ship, at our weapons, at the four of us studying her like a puzzle we cannot solve, and there is something almost like pity in her eyes. "You want to know what that transmission meant," she says, before I can even ask a question. "The one from the central building." "You already know why we brought you here," I answer. "Then explain it." She takes a slow breath, glancing toward the viewport where the stars stretch out endlessly behind us. "A long time ago, humanity almost did not survive," she says. "I was not alive then, neither were my parents. But the story gets passed down, generation after generation, in every colony we build. There was a war so terrible, against something so much stronger than us, that we thought it was the end of everything. We built something in desperation, something we swore never to use again unless we had absolutely no other choice." "A weapon," I say. "A promise," she corrects me. "One we hoped we would never need to keep." I study her closely, searching for any sign of a bluff, any flicker of fear that might tell me this is simply a clever trick meant to buy her people time. But her calm does not waver. If anything, she seems almost sad, as if she already knows exactly what is coming and wishes it did not have to. "What happens now that the promise has been triggered?" I ask her directly. She looks at me for a long moment before answering. "Now you get to meet what we built," she says quietly. "I am sorry for you. I really am." After she is escorted away, I order Feyre to dig deeper into Dominion archives, searching for anything, even old rumors dismissed as myths, mentioning ancient human weapons or old wars fought before we ever encountered this species. It takes her most of the night, but eventually she returns to my quarters with a datapad in hand, her expression grim. "I found fragments, Commander," she says, "buried deep in restricted archives from nearly 2 centuries ago. Reports from an old scouting fleet that ventured too close to human space long before official contact was ever made." "What happened to that fleet?" I ask. "According to the records, it simply stopped reporting in," she says. "Written off as a navigational accident, exactly like the border incident Solon mentioned before our attack. But there is a single surviving fragment of a final transmission, heavily damaged, barely readable." She plays it for me. The recording is broken, filled with static, but a few words come through clearly enough to understand. A frightened voice, speaking not of humans directly, but of something massive rising from beneath the waves of an ocean world. Something ancient and terrifying that the humans themselves seem to fear and respect at the same time. "They call them dragons," Feyre says softly. "Or at least, that is the closest translation we can manage. Old, powerful vessels built during humanity's darkest hour, said to be part machine, part something else entirely, sealed away afterward, hidden, forgotten by most of the galaxy because so few ever survived an encounter to tell the story properly." I sit with that information for a long time after she leaves, staring out at the quiet stars beyond my window. Every instinct built through decades of service tells me this could still be nothing more than legend, exaggeration passed down through frightened survivors and turned into myth over time. Species everywhere tell stories about ancient monsters and forgotten weapons. It does not always mean those stories are true. But then I think of Clara's calm eyes. I think of that strange countdown reaching 0, with no explosion, no visible effect, just silence afterward. I think of a confirmation signal sent back from somewhere far beyond the edge of this system, answering a message we do not fully understand. I request access to updated long-range scans, checking every corner of space near human territory for anything unusual. For hours, nothing changes. Then, near the edge of my view screen, one of my scanning officers, a young Chrysian named Torv, calls out with a sound of alarm in his voice. "Commander, we are detecting movement from what our old maps listed as a dead asteroid field, deep inside human border space." "Define movement," I say, already feeling my pulse quicken. "Objects previously logged as inactive mining stations are now generating power signatures, Commander. Large ones. Far larger than any mining equipment should produce." I stare at the display as the data updates in real time, the shapes of those distant structures slowly beginning to shift, to unfold, to wake from what looked like decades, maybe centuries, of complete dormancy. My hands feel unsteady for the first time in longer than I can remember. Solon enters the bridge just as the readings finish updating, his expression hardening as he studies the same information. "Those cannot be mining stations," he says quietly. "No," I agree, "they cannot." Word of the discovery spreads quickly through the fleet, and within hours, my superiors demand answers over secure Dominion channels, frustrated by my hesitation to continue the planned advance into human territory. I try to explain what we have found, the strange transmission, the calm evacuation, the old records of vanished scouting ships, the sudden power signatures rising from supposedly dead structures at the edge of human space. My warnings are met with the same dismissive laughter that greeted our first intelligence reports on this species. "You are letting old myths frighten you, Commander," one senior officer tells me over the comm channel. "Humanity has shown no advanced fleet capability in any previous encounter. Continue the operation as planned." I want to argue further, but orders are orders, and questioning them too loudly risks my own position within the Dominion command structure. Still, that night, alone again in my quarters, I cannot shake the feeling that we have made a terrible miscalculation. We saw a quiet colony and assumed weakness. We heard 4 strange words and dismissed them as nonsense. We found an old countdown reaching 0 and assumed nothing had happened, simply because we could not see an immediate effect. But something did happen. Somewhere out in the dark, past the edge of a system we thought we understood, something ancient has just begun to stir after a very long sleep. And for the first time since I took command of this fleet, I find myself wondering if the greatest danger we face is not the humans we came here to conquer, but the quiet, patient thing they called upon the moment we arrived. I return to the bridge before the next work cycle begins, unable to rest properly. Torv is still monitoring the distant power signatures, his voice tense as he gives me the latest update. "Commander, the structures have finished their transformation sequence," he reports. "We are now reading full vessel configurations. Whatever these things are, they are moving." "Moving where?" I ask, though some part of me already fears the answer. He turns to face me fully, his expression pale under the dim bridge lighting. "Toward us, Commander," he says. "All of them." The bridge falls into a silence heavier than any battle alarm could create. Torv's words hang in the air, and for a moment, no one moves, no one speaks, as if acknowledging them out loud would make the threat more real than it already is. "Confirm that reading," I order, my voice steady, despite the tightness building in my chest. Torv's hands move quickly across his console, double-checking every sensor array available to him. When he looks up again, his expression has not changed. "Confirmed, Commander. Multiple large vessels, previously dormant, now under active propulsion. Current heading places them on a direct course toward our fleet's position within this system." Solon steps closer to the main display, watching the slow, deliberate movement of the newly awakened ships as they emerge fully from what we once mistook for a dead asteroid field. Even at this distance, their shapes are unlike anything cataloged in Dominion records. Long, curved hulls, dark and scarred, with edges that seem to ripple unnaturally under our scanning beams, as if the ships themselves are breathing. "Get me a full tactical analysis," I order Feyre. "Weapons capability, shield strength, anything our systems can pull from those hulls." She works quickly, but after several long minutes, she shakes her head, frustration clear on her face. "Our scanners cannot get a clean reading, Commander. It is like trying to measure smoke. The closest match our database offers is roughly 70% confidence toward pre-Dominion era construction, but the material composition does not align with anything we have on file." "How is that possible?" Solon asks. "I do not know," Feyre admits. "It is almost like those vessels were built to avoid being properly understood at all." I stare at the display, watching those slow, patient shapes drift closer with every passing second, completely unhurried, as if their pace itself is meant to send a message. Predators that rush reveal fear. Predators that move slowly, deliberately, without a hint of urgency, are the ones who already know they do not need to hurry. I open a direct line to Dominion High Command, hoping this new evidence will finally convince them to reconsider our position. The response comes back sharper and more dismissive than before. Commander Velthara, you were given clear orders to continue the advance into human territory. Instead, you are wasting valuable operational time chasing ghost stories about ancient vessels that likely amount to nothing more than outdated mining equipment, malfunctioning under stress. Proceed with the mission or explain in writing why you refuse a direct order. I close the channel without responding immediately, my patience thinning under the weight of their arrogance. They were not there when Clara looked at me with quiet pity in her eyes. They did not hear that strange four-word phrase repeated over and over on an open frequency. They have not watched, as I have now watched twice, structures we assumed were harmless suddenly reveal themselves to be something else entirely. Bring Clara back to the strategy room, I order. She arrives a short while later, calm as always, though something in her expression has shifted slightly since our last conversation. It almost looks like relief. You saw them wake up, she says, before I can speak. Tell me what we are looking at, I say, choosing honesty over intimidation this time. Not legends, not old fragments pulled from damaged transmissions. The truth. She studies me for a long moment, as if deciding whether I have earned an honest answer, before finally nodding slightly. Centuries ago, before humanity expanded beyond our home system, we encountered something we were not prepared for, she begins. An old, powerful threat that nearly wiped out everything we had built. I do not know all the details myself. Much of that history is kept quiet, taught only in fragments to protect certain secrets from ever spreading too far. But I know enough to tell you this. We built something in response. Something meant only as an absolute last resort, never intended for casual use, never meant to be part of everyday defense. Weapons, I say again. Not exactly weapons, she corrects gently, more like guardians, vessels fused with both advanced technology and the willing minds of some of our most brilliant engineers, people who chose, knowingly, to give themselves to that purpose so humanity would never face true extinction again. We called them many things over the years. Some called them sentinels. Others, over time, simply started calling them dragons because of the way they looked and the way old stories described them protecting something precious from harm. And you woke them because of us, I say quietly. We woke them because your fleet attacked an unarmed colony without warning, without any attempt at communication, and without any regard for the lives you assumed you could take without consequence, she replies, her voice steady but not unkind. Protocol Worm exists for exactly this scenario. An attack against innocent civilians triggers the process automatically once certain conditions are met. It is not something any human commander wanted to activate. It happened because your fleet made that choice for us. Her words settle over me heavier than any tactical report could. I think of New Meridian's empty, silent streets, the calm evacuation, the countdown reaching zero in that abandoned building. It was never meant to be a trap set specifically for us. It was simply the natural, terrible result of what happens when someone attacks a species that quietly prepared, generations ago, for exactly this kind of moment. Can this still be stopped? I ask her directly. She hesitates before answering, something like genuine sorrow crossing her features. I do not know, she admits. Once the dragons wake, they follow their own protocols, built to protect human life above all else. I have never personally witnessed what happens after that. Only the old stories passed down through my family, warning us never to provoke a situation like this one. I dismiss her from the room and return my attention to the main display, watching those slow, dark shapes continue their steady approach through the outer edge of the system. My science officers work frantically to gather any additional data they can, hoping to find a weakness, an opening, anything that might explain how to defend against something we barely understand. Hours pass in tense silence as the fleet prepares defensive formations, though I already sense, deep down, that traditional formations will mean little against something built specifically to counter overwhelming threats. I order additional scans focused on communication frequencies, hoping to intercept any exchange between the approaching vessels and the remaining human forces still active in this system. Drake calls out suddenly, his voice tight with tension. "Commander, I am picking up a transmission originating from the lead vessel." "Play it," I order immediately. The bridge speakers crackle briefly before falling silent again. Then a voice comes through, calm, measured, and entirely too human for something emerging from a machine built centuries ago. "This is Guardian Vessel Designation Ember," the voice says. "Protocol Worm has been authenticated. Hostile action confirmed against unarmed human civilians at Colony New Meridian, proceeding with mandated response protocol. All hostile vessels are advised to withdraw immediately. This is your only warning." The bridge falls into stunned silence following the transmission. My crew looks to me for guidance, for reassurance, for some sign that our situation is not as dire as it now clearly appears. I wish I had something more comforting to offer them. "Drake, send a response," I order finally. "Tell them we acknowledge the warning and request further clarification before any further action is taken." He complies immediately, though I already sense, deep in my instincts, that clarification will not save us from what is coming. Minutes pass without any reply from the approaching vessels. They simply continue their slow, deliberate advance, unbothered by our attempt at communication, as if the warning they already gave was more than sufficient. I contact Dominion High Command one final time, relaying the full transmission along with updated tactical readings on the approaching dragons. This time, the response comes back slower, more measured, though still colored with obvious disbelief. "Commander, maintain defensive posture but do not withdraw from the system. We are dispatching additional reinforcements to assist your fleet. Hold your position until further notice." I stare at that order for a long moment, feeling the full weight of it settle over me. Reinforcements will take days to arrive from the nearest Dominion outpost. The dragons, judging by their current trajectory, will reach our fleet's position within a matter of hours. Solon approaches quietly as I close the channel, his usual confidence replaced by something far more cautious. "Commander, what do we do?" he asks simply. I look out at the display one final time, watching those ancient, patient shapes continue their approach through the dark, feeling, for the first time in my long career, truly uncertain of what tomorrow holds for any of us. "We wait," I say quietly, "and we hope we understand what we are truly facing before it arrives." While the fleet holds its position, I return to Feyre's collected archives, hoping something within those fragments will help me understand exactly what kind of adversary we now face. She joins me in the small records room adjoining the strategy chamber, her expression tired but focused as she pulls up an older, badly damaged file recovered from a captured human data core during our initial assault on New Meridian. "This one is different from the others, Commander," she says. "It appears to be part of an educational record, something meant to be taught to younger generations rather than kept as an official military file." She activates the recording, and a soft, aged voice fills the room, clearly meant for a much gentler audience than the two of us currently listening. "Long before we reached the stars," the recording begins, "our people faced a threat unlike anything recorded in our history, a force so overwhelming that entire regions of our homeworld were lost before we even understood what we were fighting. Our militaries fell, one after another. Our alliances crumbled under the strain. For a time it seemed as though our story might end there, quietly, without anyone beyond our own solar system ever knowing we had existed at all." Feyre pauses the recording briefly, glancing at me before continuing. "There is more, Commander. Quite a bit more." She lets it play again. "In our darkest hour, a group of scientists and engineers came together with an idea born from desperation rather than confidence. If our physical numbers could not withstand this threat, perhaps something built differently could. They proposed constructing a small number of highly advanced vessels, stronger and more resilient than anything built before, capable of adapting to threats faster than any traditional military force ever could. But raw technology alone was not enough. The project required something more, a level of decision-making and awareness that only a living mind could provide, especially under conditions too chaotic and unpredictable for pre-programmed systems to manage effectively. They are describing minds joined to machines, I say quietly, almost to myself. Continue listening, Feyre replies. Volunteers came forward from among our own scientists and engineers, fully aware of the sacrifice being asked of them. They would not simply pilot these vessels, they would become part of them, permanently, their knowledge and awareness woven directly into the systems designed to protect what remained of our people. It was never treated as an honor demanded of them. It was treated as the heaviest possible price anyone could ever be asked to pay, and every single volunteer understood exactly what they were giving up, long before the process began. The recording pauses briefly before continuing in a slightly different tone, softer, almost reverent. When the first Guardian vessel activated, it did not seek glory or conquest. It sought only to protect. Over time, as more were built, our people began calling them by an old name taken from stories told long before space travel was ever possible. Tales of great and ancient creatures that guarded treasures, protected the innocent, and slept peacefully until they were truly needed. We called them dragons, not because they were monsters, but because they represented something powerful enough to frighten any true threat away, while remaining gentle toward those they were built to protect. After the war finally ended, the recording continues, our leaders made a difficult decision. The dragons would not be used again for ordinary conflicts, only in situations where the safety of innocent human life faced overwhelming, immediate danger. They were placed into a long, careful rest, hidden across various colonies as we expanded outward, watching quietly, waiting, hoping they would never need to wake again. The recording ends there, leaving a heavy silence in the small room. Feyre looks at me, waiting for my reaction, though I am not entirely sure what to say at first. They did not build weapons meant for war, I say finally. They built protectors meant for peace, and simply prepared for the possibility that peace might not always be respected by others. That is exactly it, Commander, she agrees quietly, and we gave them the exact situation those protectors were built to answer. I think back to every report I dismissed as legend, every warning I brushed aside as exaggeration born from frightened survivors. I think of Clara's calm eyes, her quiet sorrow rather than anger, as though she genuinely regretted what our actions had set into motion. I think of that eerie, practiced evacuation on New Meridian, not born from panic, but from decades of careful planning for exactly this scenario. We did not stumble upon a weak, unprepared species ripe for easy conquest. We stumbled upon a species that endured devastation so complete it reshaped their entire approach to survival, then chose, deliberately, to hide that strength behind quiet colonies and modest defenses, hoping never to reveal it again unless absolutely necessary. Solon enters partway through my conversation with Feyre, his expression grim as he delivers the latest tactical update. Commander, the lead vessel has slowed its approach, he reports. Sensors indicate it is now holding position roughly 2 hours away from our fleet. Only one vessel? I ask. The others remain further back, Commander, though still advancing steadily, he clarifies. It appears the lead ship intends to reach us first, alone. I consider this information carefully. A single vessel approaching ahead of the others could suggest confidence bordering on arrogance, or it could suggest something far more calculated, a deliberate attempt to demonstrate strength without committing their entire force unnecessarily. Get me everything you can on that lead vessel specifically, I order. If it intends to reach us first, I want to understand exactly what we are dealing with before it arrives. Feyre and her team work tirelessly over the following hour, gathering every scrap of data available from long-range sensors, cross-referencing it against the educational recording we just reviewed. Eventually, she returns with updated findings, her expression more composed now, though clearly still troubled by what she has uncovered. Based on available data, Commander, that lead vessel likely represents one of the original dragons constructed during humanity's darkest period, she explains. Its energy signature suggests systems far older than anything else currently active within human territory, yet somehow still fully operational despite centuries of dormancy. How is that possible, I ask? I believe it relates to the fused human consciousness at its core, she says carefully. A traditional machine might degrade significantly over time without constant maintenance. A living mind, Even one integrated so deeply into a mechanical system may retain a level of adaptability and self-repair that pure technology alone could never achieve. I absorb this information slowly, feeling the true scale of what we are facing settle fully into place for the first time. This is not simply an advanced warship. This is something closer to a living guardian, patient and deliberate, carrying within it the awareness and judgment of someone who chose, long ago, to give everything they were in order to protect countless others they would never personally meet. As the hours pass and the lead dragon continues its slow, steady approach, I gather my senior officers one final time before its expected arrival. I look around at their tired, uncertain faces, knowing that whatever confidence I project now will shape how they respond to whatever comes next. We came here believing we understood exactly what kind of threat we might face, I tell them. We were wrong. This is not a weak species we stumbled upon by chance. This is a species that survived something terrible enough to permanently change how they prepare for danger, then quietly rebuilt their entire way of life around the hope that they would never need to reveal that preparation again. "What do we do now, Commander?" Solon asks quietly. I look toward the viewport, watching the distant shape of that ancient vessel drawing steadily closer, unhurried, patient, entirely unafraid. "We watch," I answer honestly. "And we prepare ourselves for the possibility that everything we believed about this conquest was wrong from the very beginning." The bridge falls quiet once more, each officer returning to their station, watching the same slow approach. I cannot look away from myself. Somewhere out there, inside that ancient hull, a mind that once chose sacrifice over survival is now awake again after a long, peaceful rest, called back into service by choices my own fleet made without ever fully understanding the cost. I do not yet know what will happen when that dragon finally reaches us. But for the first time since taking command of this operation, I find myself hoping, quietly, that whatever mercy still exists inside that ancient guardian might extend, even briefly, toward those of us who never truly understood what we were provoking until it was already far too late to take it back. The lead dragon reaches the outer edge of our formation exactly 2 hours later, precisely as our sensors predicted, without a single moment of delay or hesitation. I stand at the center of the bridge, watching its massive shape fill the main display, feeling every eye on my ship turn toward me, waiting for orders I am not entirely certain how to give. Up close, the vessel looks even less like traditional Dominion technology than our earlier scans suggested. Its hull moves subtly, almost like breathing, dark plating shifting in ways that defy simple mechanical explanation. Faint lines of soft light pulse slowly along its length, steady and calm, like a heartbeat rather than a warning signal. "Commander, it is hailing us again," Drake says, his voice tight. "Put it through," I order. The same calm, measured voice from before fills the bridge once more. "This is Guardian Vessel Ember. You have chosen not to withdraw. Explain your intentions before further action is taken." I glance around at my crew, each of them watching me carefully, before finally responding myself, choosing honesty over the usual practiced confidence of a Dominion commander. "This is Fleet Commander Velthara, of the Dominion vessel Vantage Cry," I say. "We acknowledge your warning. We request a chance to speak directly, to understand fully what has been triggered here, before any further action occurs on either side." There is a long pause before the response comes, longer than any previous delay in our communications with the approaching vessel. "Request acknowledged," the voice finally replies. "Prepare to receive a direct connection." Moments later, the main display shifts, revealing not simply data readouts, but an actual visual image, somehow projected from within the ancient vessel itself. A figure appears, humanoid in shape but clearly composed of light and shifting energy rather than solid flesh, its expression calm, patient, and entirely without anger. "I am Ember," the figure says simply. "I was once a person, long ago, before I became something else entirely, in service of protecting my people. I do not enjoy conflict. I never have. But I exist specifically to answer moments like this one, when innocent lives are threatened without warning or justification. We believed your colony to be undefended. I say honestly, deciding deception would serve no purpose now. We did not know what we were truly provoking." Many do not, until it is far too late, Ember replies, its tone neither harsh nor forgiving, simply factual. That is precisely why protocols like the one your fleet triggered exist in the first place. Humanity does not seek conflict with any species we encounter. But we learned, at great cost, that peace offered without the ability to protect it eventually invites exactly this kind of tragedy. What happens now? I ask directly, unwilling to waste time on pretense any longer. That depends entirely on your next choice, Commander, Ember answers. Protocol Worm does not demand destruction. It demands accountability, and it demands that further harm against innocent human life stops immediately. If your fleet withdraws now, fully and completely, from human territory, this can end without further loss on either side. I consider the offer carefully, weighing it against everything I have learned since this operation began. Every instinct built through years of Dominion service tells me surrender, even partial surrender like this, will bring severe consequences from my superiors back home. But every piece of evidence gathered over these past days tells me continuing this conflict risks losses far greater than any punishment Dominion Command could ever impose. And if I refuse, I ask, needing to understand the full weight of my decision before making it. Ember's expression does not change, remaining calm and steady even as its next words settle heavily over the bridge. Then you will learn exactly why my people chose the name Dragon for vessels like myself, it says simply. Not because we sought to frighten anyone unnecessarily, but because some threats require exactly that level of response in order to protect what matters most. I glance toward Solon, then Feyre, then finally toward Drake, each of them watching me in tense silence, waiting to see which path I will choose. I think of Clara's calm sorrow, of that eerie, silent evacuation, of an entire species that endured devastation so complete it reshaped their whole approach to survival, then quietly hoped they would never need to reveal that strength again. Stand down all offensive systems, I order my fleet, my voice carrying clearly across every open channel. Prepare immediate withdrawal from this system. A ripple of surprise passes through my bridge crew, though none openly question the order. Ember watches the command unfold across our systems, its expression shifting slightly, something almost like quiet relief crossing its features. A wise choice, Commander, it says softly, wiser than many before you have made in similar circumstances. This will not go unquestioned by my superiors, I admit honestly. They ordered me to continue this operation, not retreat from it. Then perhaps it is time your superiors learn what truly waits at the edge of human space, Ember replies. Not out of threat, but out of simple truth. We do not seek expansion. We do not seek conquest. We seek only the chance to live peacefully, protected by the promise we made to ourselves long ago that we would never again allow devastation like what we once suffered to happen to us, or to those who came seeking peace honestly, without violence as their first response. As my fleet begins its slow withdrawal from the system, I remain on the bridge, watching Ember's massive form hold steady, patient, unhurried, exactly as it has been since first appearing on our scanners. Behind it, the other dragons remain in loose formation, silent guardians rather than aggressive attackers, waiting only to ensure their purpose has been properly served. Before the connection finally closes, Ember speaks one final time, its voice calm, but carrying a weight that I suspect will stay with me for the rest of my career. Tell your people this, Commander, it says. Humanity does not wish for war with anyone. We have already paid the price such conflict demands, more completely than most species could ever imagine surviving. But we will always answer when innocent lives among our people are threatened without cause. That is not a warning meant to frighten. It is simply a promise we intend to keep, for as long as we continue to exist among the stars. The connection closes, and Ember's vessel begins its own slow turn, returning toward the depths of human territory alongside the other dragons, their purpose here now fulfilled, without a single shot exchanged between us. I remain standing at the center of my bridge long after they disappear from our scanners, feeling the full weight of everything I have witnessed these past several days finally settle fully into place. We came here believing we understood exactly what kind of species waited at the edge of this system. We saw a quiet colony, modest defenses, and assumed weakness born from lack of strength rather than strength held carefully in reserve. We were wrong, completely and thoroughly wrong, in a way that will likely echo throughout Dominion Command for a very long time after this report finally reaches them. Zolan approaches quietly as the last traces of the Dragon fleet vanish from our sensors, his expression thoughtful rather than troubled now. "Do you believe they will follow us, Commander?" he asks, "even after our withdrawal?" "No," I answer honestly. "I believe exactly what Ember told us. They do not seek expansion or conquest. They seek only the chance to be left in peace, protected by something powerful enough to ensure that peace is respected." "Then what do we tell Dominion Command?" he asks. I consider the question carefully before finally responding, choosing my words with more caution than I have ever needed before in my long career. "We tell them the truth," I say. "That the species we assume to be soft, easy targets for expansion are in fact protected by something far older, far more patient, and far more dangerous than anything currently within our own arsenal. We tell them that humanity did not fire first in this conflict. We fired first, and humanity simply answered with exactly the level of response such an action deserved." As my fleet moves steadily away from human territory, returning toward familiar Dominion space, I find myself composing the official report I know will eventually reach every corner of our government, likely dismissed at first, then slowly accepted as more commanders inevitably learn this same lesson the hard way, exactly as we did. I choose my final words carefully, knowing they will likely be repeated for generations to come, whispered as warning among every fleet commander who ever considers targeting human colonies again in the future. You attacked human colonies, expecting weakness, expecting easy conquest, expecting a quiet species too small and too new to properly defend itself. Congratulations, you just awakened the dragons. And now, having witnessed exactly what that means firsthand, I can offer only one piece of advice to anyone foolish enough to consider repeating our mistake in the future. Do not